Well, one fine afternoon, Robbie went walking down the street. I think that answers your question if Robbie's going to die in this or not. He plucked from his pocket a stick of gum and put it into his mouth.
It has arsenic in it. You won't do that.
Wait, since when do I chew gum?
Alas, the task of walking and chewing gum at the same time proved too much for him, as he soon found himself choking. In this desperate failing, he managed to trip himself, causing him to fall down into a road and in front of an oncoming traffic, where he was then ran over by a semi-truck that decapitated him, sending his head sailing off into a bloody arc. Now, that out of the way. Scratches. Scrap. It begun on the second night of the hunting trip. No one liked to go up into the mountains during the winter, but after that, the orc raiders had ransacked the village. Larder, we had no choice. Some had said we should give thanks to the sheep god for watching over us because the orcs only took our food and not our lives. But I bet the damn beast only spared us because they found the idea of us all to die a slow death of starvation amusing. Regardless, us three, myself and Ramon, the villagers' best hunters, and the brother Brandon, cleric of the sheep god, were sent out up into these god-forsaken frozen mountains to bring back some game and hopefully keep us all from starving. The first day actually went rather well, with both Ramon and I bringing down 2 deer each before we even reached the hunting lodge. We rose the next day to find that almost a foot of snow had fallen, which, while we slept. The snow would have... The snow would make the return journey harder, but as Ramon pointed out, it also meant animal tracks would stand out more. He was right. 3 deer and half a dozen rabbits, each me and Ramon felled. We had also come across an ordinary boar, that gave me a nasty gash in my leg before we could take it down. But such things are why Brandon is here, and with the sheep god's blessing, he had and healed in an instant. All in all, things were looking good for us. Night fell. Scrap. It began. Not long after it got dark, scratching at the walls of the lodge. At first we assumed it was just some raccoon, or at worst a goblin scavenger about. Ramon went out with a torch lit to scare whatever it was off. But when he came back, he said that he didn't see anything. We shrugged it off as nothing to worry about, and tried to go back to sleep. Scrap. The scratching sound soon returned, however, louder than before, like whatever was making the noise had been angered. This time, both me and Ramon went out, torches burning bright. We circled the house twice in different directions and saw nothing. What more, we also saw no tracks in the snow aside from our own. Now we began to worry. It's still probably nothing, I said to others. Maybe some kind of bird or bat. That's why there's no tracks, Ramon and Brandon nodded. But I knew that I wasn't even fooling myself, let alone them. A sleepless night passed, and our operation was pushed to the back of our minds as we set back out and to hunting. But there was nothing to be found this day. Nary a track or even a bird was seen all day. Weary and disheartened, we returned to the lodge and waited to see what the night would bring. Scrap. We didn't have to wait long before the scratches started again, even louder than before. They now sounded as though they came from 2 different directions. Damn it, cleric! Do something, Ramon cried out. There's something evil and natural there. Isn't handling that kind of thing why you are here? Brandon nodded and stood. Yeah. You're right. I have faith. The sheep god will deliver us from this.
The sheep god?
Darkness, the ponderous priest said as he took up the steady shepherd's crook he carried walked forth into the night. We heard nothing else that night. Morning came and Brother Brandon had still not returned. Fearing the worst, we set out again, hunting this time for our wayward Sir Clerk. It was sometime after noon when we found him. Brandon was pinned to a tree, his crook jammed through his chest and into the trunk. As he'd been gutted, everything below his chest has been torn away, leaving only dangling scraps of entrails. No sooner had the ghastly sight set in, we turned and ran back to the lodge and bolted the door behind us. We sat there, panting for a long while before Ramon finally spoke. Skirt, It was just one light scratch this time, but... Yeah. The sooner we leave this... Oh, sorry. Ramon found... Well, if nothing else, with the fat man gone, maybe we have enough food that we can go home. Part of me wanted to chide him from his lack of reverence at the death of our priest, but at the moment I couldn't help but to agree. The sooner we leave this mountain, the better. It was just one light scratch this time, but it was enough to make me and Ramon forget our weariness and leap to our feet. What the hell, Ramon yelled. The sun's still up! They aren't supposed to come in dark! We stood there tensely and waited, but no more sounds came. What did come, however, was a smell. A smell of burning wood. Forgetting our fear, we ran outside and saw the shed we had stored our hunted game engulfed in flame. We tried to douse the fire, but it was already burning far too fiercely, and in the end we couldn't do naught but watch it, and the food we had worked so hard to gather burned to the ground. That's it. I'm leaving this goddamn mountain right now, Ramon shouted. Wait, are you mad? It's almost dark. You saw what happened to Brandon. Do you want to join him? I asked. Ramon cringed, the angst clearly showing on his face, but he relented. We should leave in the morning. Scrap. To no one's surprise, the scratches came back that night, and again they were louder. Both me and Ramon sat up the whole night, not daring to sleep after the burning of our shed, waiting only for the first light of day to make our escape. Or at least that was the plan. It would seem that even Mother Nature was against us. A freak blizzard had come into the night, and we found ourselves facing over 5 feet of snow. To leave now would be nothing short of suicide, so we could do nothing other than sit and wait. Days passed. And I gotta go. But actually, pretty good story. I gotta go. So,
how much more is left of it?
I got a page.
Brandon, finish reading it.
So, good story.
Or Tony can finish reading it real quickly.
I'm working on this one.
Okay.
Okay.
So we're changing readers to Elmer Fudd. Hey, is that stable over there, Tony?
Yeah.
Okay.
Days passed, and our meager food supplies we had in the lodge began to run low. Scrap. Now the scratching was not content to wait until darkness, and tormented us constantly. Scrap. At last, the last of the food was gone, and the snow was still just as high. Hunger began to scrape at our wills as loudly as the beasts waited outside scraped at the walls. Scrap. Neither of us slept in days. We sat on opposite sides of the lodge, just watching each other. I nodded slightly as fatigue took its toll, but only for a second. When I aroused, I saw Ramon fingering his hunting knife, looking at me. When he saw me awake, he just smiled and put the knife away. But with a loud growl on both our stomachs, I knew what he was planning. I had to admit, I had similar thoughts myself. Scrap, and a constant scratching seemed only to egg such thoughts on. Suddenly, scratch, another scratch, no different than any others we had been hearing, but something about it made it snap. In an instant, Ramon was at me, knife in hand, equal parts murder and hunger in his eyes. I fought back, and the next few minutes were a blur. How we fought I can never remember, but somehow we ended up outside, me atop Ramon, and his knife buried deep in his neck. Scrap. Again that cursed scratching, but this time I heard, or maybe I felt it. Either way, there was something in those scratches. Instructions I felt compelled to follow. With a will that was not my own, I took up the knife again and set to work. Scrap. Soon I held it aloft Ramon's heart, and despite me screaming at myself in my head to stop, I bit into it. Scrap. Hot blood flowed down my face like the juice from a ripe peach. I lived up on my grisly meal back at the lodge, and felt my own blood freeze in my veins. At the wall of the lodge there was a man, or no, what was once a man. His skin was the blackish purple of frostbite, and tightly stretched over its bones. It looked at me with hollow eyes and a jagged red-stained smile. It floated closer to the wall, for it had no feet, just charred stumps at the end of its legs. It reached out a bony, clawed hand and scratched at the wood. Scratch. I ran. Despite this deep snow, I ran like I never ran before. Faster. I had to go faster. Had to get away, but the beast followed. I ran on faster and faster still. My lungs were burning. Must go faster. My feet were burning. Must go fast. Wait. No. My feet were literally burning. But panic drove me on, drove me faster. The smell of my own burning flesh reached my nose as I still ran, and the beast was still gaining. Soon my feet no longer supported me, and I fell, but I never hit the ground. I run on. I run into the sky, and the beast follows. More beasts come from wood and fly next to me. One looks at me in the eye and says a pair of words, "Welcome, brother." And that's the end.
Not Wendigo Orgy?
No.